we have we found it very useful to think on 3 different levels. We look for the bigger why behind, so we look for jobs that express the bigger why. We look for jobs that express the deeper why, what are the drivers behind it, and there the social and so on comes in. And we look at the lower how. We use a framework, and you can use that as well, a framework along all the 4 steps of a CFI project. In the framing phase, we ask ourselves what's the level of altitude we have to go in. Sometimes the level of altitude is quite high, sometimes it's quite low. Yeah?
Is it implied that the previous slide? Just with Pampers or whatever?
The Pampers. So the lower how, I mean, what's the core job is I would say, starting point, I haven't done a job study on Pampers. I was just working on it. But keep baby dry, keep parents happy, keep baby happy. That would be the core job. What's the higher, the bigger why of the parents, because the parents buy the product, is make them successful, basically. Grow the kids, develop them. And the lower how is then, how do you do it? Which are really, it starts with recognize, basically know that something is wrong with the baby. No? There are different signals why a baby, do you have a child? No? Why a baby has, why it's time to change the Pampers. And for an engineer, this is very clear when it stinks. But the mother knows already much before that. So it's really going through this step by step and trying to find the how. How do they do it? How do they recognize baby needs to change diapers? What's next? What's next? It's very close to user journeys. And the trick is not to be too close to the solution. So not saying opening the diaper, because that's a solution.
On the Pampers example, on the 3 slides, you have Pampers and you have Huggies. So how is Huggies different from Pampers in the value proposition? Any other brand that you know aware?
Huggies was not using this insight. As simple as that. The difference was that Huggies was not using this insight and Pampers was using it. Huggies was catching up on technology. Pampers had a lead, but Huggies was catching up. And so the question is, you can do technology innovation, and they did that, but in what direction? And you can do meaning innovation. So you change the meaning. And Pampers was changing the meaning. And of course, this also led to technology innovation. And Huggies was blind. And that's really the key. You have to know where to go, and then if the other ones don't know, you basically beat them.
No, because I personally see a big difference here. The advertising fix for one is more expensive than the other one was.
Yeah.
But in terms of different sizes, children growing up, families and very controlled, it's similar.
Yeah, sure. It was copy. It was. They copied, but market share of Pampers when I was there was 60%. Huggies was 20%. 20% were private labels. Price of Pampers was like 10-15% higher. It's good business if you can defend it. Okay, but let's use this. So we start with a core job. And it's very simple. We start at the beginning without even talking to the users. Just common sense, very simple. What could be the core job? What are jobs upstream and downstream? Then we think about hypothesis of higher jobs, and we think about the job journey. How could it go? Very inside out, very hypothesis driven. We are at this stage, framing. The deeper why is safety and survival jobs. That's what you just mentioned. Social jobs, social exchange. We take a bit of Maslow here. you know, Maslow pyramid, and we apply it to jobs to be done. But you can take another framework. Huh? We just found it interesting, but not as a pyramid, but we say, okay, there are safety jobs, keep safe, know that someone is safe, social exchange job, which is basically communicating, recognition jobs, being valued, being applauded, and then this self-reward or self-actualization job. That's a framework, but you can take another one. Huh? Maybe it doesn't apply to your... And but we know that there is more than just a function. That's what it says. So then we make a hypothesis, then we go into discovery, and in discovery we talk to users, like in design thinking or user. We talk to them, and we test this hypothesis, and we dig deeper. We really do this laddering, why, what drives you, and we don't stop with the first answer. And try to establish this map, or this job hierarchy, in a more outside-in way. Yeah?
What is extreme jobs and non-extreme jobs?
Okay, when you start at some point, let's put it differently. A day has 1,440 minutes. Huh? When you do something, you do something before and you do something afterwards. And maybe the things you do before has to do with the things you do now. So the classic example from Alvik is Sony was the inventor of the Discman, Walkman, and so on, but they lost the iPod, basically, the MP3. They lost it. Apple was not the first MP3 player. But Apple understood what happens before and what happens afterwards. So that the steps before, put these songs onto your MP3, was quite a challenge at the time. You don't remember, but everything was illegal. You downloaded it illegal. You had viruses on it. So it was a problem. While in the Sony world, it was very easy. You go to the store, you buy CD discs, and you have them. And afterwards, the job downstream was also, okay, I have now 5,000 songs on this little thing. How do I find them? Not quite a challenge. Huh? So they created a whole system with iTunes. That's an old example.
How about things like buying and maintaining and all these things around the product? I mean,
yeah, we hardly
cleaning your coffee machine or something is.
We do buying. We don't. We try to avoid. I mean, it's not about the purchase decision. Most of our projects are not about the actual purchase decision in the store or on the internet, but they are about use of the product. And we assume, and that's a hypothesis, that if the use of the product is great, then they will also buy it.
Like Nespresso, it sort of seems that part of it was all the experience of it's the purchasing, it's the stores, it's these. I mean, it's almost more about the buying.
Yeah.
Than well.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes we do it when the buying is, when the client pushes us or when we feel it has a role to play.
Or Dyson, where you don't have to change the bags. I mean, that's part of.
But that's maintenance. Maintenance we do. Maintenance is clearly part of the usage. And when you do business to business, maintenance can be the core focus of it. So it can all be about maintenance. Alstom was about gas power station and coal power station. And let's say gas power station, this is all about operating and maintain this thing. And it's more maintain because the gas power station runs, never runs. Let's put it like this. A gas power station is just there in standby and it never runs. So it has to be perfectly maintained. And when the grid goes down, the gas has to go up, the gas station has to go up immediately, instantly, and provide energy. So they are just load balancing, it's called. So it's all about maintenance.
I have a startup that does a wearable device for identification. And I'm bringing them into fleet management.
Yeah?
The fleet management will be more important to the B2B person than the science and the technology behind the actual device.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's a tool, the tool is really bigger Y, lower how, deeper Y. Helps you to go 360 degrees. Let's show an example. Okay, I have a consumer goods example again and a finance example, but the consumer goods example, that was for Beiersdorf, Nivea.
Just a quick question. There was this frame, disc, spin. Was that the? Where did you pitch that? The bottom there? Stick?
Disc, spin. Oh, that's our framework. That's basically the phases we go through, and we think it should be gone through. It's first you frame the business problem from a job to be done perspective. So there is a business problem. Say we want to grow market share, or we want to introduce our product into the market. That's a business that has nothing to do with the user. Now, how could this be framed from a user perspective? That's the framing. Who are the users? So that's strategy stuff, and who are the users needs to be clarified. Discovery, that's two things. That's exploration. So very similar to design thinking or agile. So you talk to users, but solution free. And the second element to it is validation. So we do quite a bit of outside-in validation, quantification. And this can also be done to a certain extent by startups. And spin is then, when the results are in, it's basically the customer understanding or user understanding is in, we spin the strategy or we spin the product development, we orient the product development towards these insights that we gained. And stick is make it stick, so that can be develop a product when it's really about developing new products, or very often we hear in recent days transformation. So every company is now in digital transformation, and it's a lot about people and change management and things. So that's why we call it stick. But this is like our systematic way.